Good afternoon, members of the media, wider listening and looking on public of Trinidad and Tobago. I apologize for being a few minutes late here this afternoon. We were just having some post-cabinet discussions. I have with me this afternoon the Minister of Education, the Minister of Foreign and CARICOM Affairs, and the Minister of Trade and Industry. So I'll ask the Minister of Education to come and address you first. Thank you.
Good afternoon, members of the media. Today, discussions focus on the school improvement plan with special emphasis on Laventille. As you might be aware, on the 1st of October this year, our Prime Minister launched the school improvement plan, the Laventille project. And we had a series of discussions this morning. One of the areas that we have focused on is the school rally that will be held on Wednesday, that is next Wednesday, the 16th of November, at the Queen's Park Savannah, at the grandstand, and the Prime Minister will be there to address the students. The program involves 25 schools, 20 primary schools and 5 secondary schools. We expect that all students of all those 25 schools will be in attendance, together with the 500 odd teachers from those schools. This morning at Cabinet, we also decided that almost all members of Cabinet will be there, and a few of the ministers will be there also to address the students. There will be performances by students so that they can showcase their talents. The important aspect of this program is to ensure that we provide the environment in our schools so that, one, our parents will want to send their children to schools in Laventille, two, our students will want to remain in the schools, and most importantly, the academic performance of the students will be enhanced and improved. These are some of the initiatives that we have spoken about, and we are hoping that this project, which will last for a period of 3 years, will be used as a pilot, so that if there are any other areas in the country where there's the need for that type of intervention, we will be able to apply the type of measures that we have indicated in this Laventille project. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister Garcia. I will now ask Minister Moses to address us.
Many thanks. I'd like to focus in a rather brief way on the persons detained in Venezuela. Currently, they are in the custody of the national institution in Venezuela responsible for intelligence. They're under the control of the agency that treats with immigration matters, but are actually detained in the custody of the national agency that, as I just said, that treats with intelligence. 3 of such persons, their passports, travel documents will have lapsed, and to enable their eventual travel back to Trinidad, we would need to issue new documents, valid documents, to allow their travel back. A meeting was scheduled for yesterday. It did not take place between officials from our embassy in Caracas and the officials from the 2 agencies I just mentioned, the one treating with immigration and the other dealing with intelligence, national institutions of Venezuela. That did not take place. So we are very hopeful that shortly such a meeting will be held, and that would allow the actual issuance of the travel documents. In short order thereafter, the persons could travel to Trinidad and Tobago. We have been on an ongoing basis treating with the persons in detention. We have not been allowed visiting rights as it were over the past year. We are hopeful that shortly that will take place. Notwithstanding, the persons have been in constant and frequent contact, dare I say, with officials from our embassy in Caracas, and we have been affording the services that they require, consular services that is. They are currently in good health as of a couple of days back. And overall, we are very hopeful that they can be reunited with their families in Trinidad and Tobago. Perhaps it might be useful to reiterate the charges that they were found guilty of, one relating to conspiracy and the other relating to espionage. The latter would have been as a result of their being arrested at a facility used for training by the police. It was not illegal then for entry into such a facility. And the other one being a non-gang criminal activity. Those are the two charges for which they would have been found guilty. So with that short summary, in summary fashion, I would entertain a few questions if it is deemed appropriate.
If I may just, thank you, Minister Moses. If I may just add to what Minister Moses has said, and I think what we'll do is we'll then ask Minister Gopi Skoon and then we'll deal with questions collectively after. The government of Trinidad and Tobago has been in constant contact through Minister Moses' ministry with the government of Venezuela with respect to these Venezuelan nationals. As the national community would have known a couple weeks ago, and as Minister Moses has reiterated, they went through court proceedings in Venezuela. They were found guilty, they were sentenced, and they've served their sentence. The government of Trinidad and Tobago has been in constant contact with the government of Venezuela with respect to these nationals, and in particular, their deportation back to Trinidad and Tobago. So we have finally been able to provide an update with respect to that, and that's what Minister Moses has just provided. His ministry remains in very close contact with both the Ministry of the Attorney General as well as the Ministry of National Security, which Minister Moses is a minister in that ministry as well. So the government of Trinidad and Tobago has been not only constantly monitoring the situation, but putting things in place for the eventual deportation back to Trinidad and Tobago. Having added that, I now ask Minister Gopi Skoon, the Minister of Trade, to give us a brief update on her recent trip to Cuba.
Thank you very much, Minister Young. You would know that a week ago, there was a large trade and energy delegation to Cuba. We started off with 85 people leaving Trinidad. Somehow or the other, 95 people ended there. And it was that there was such a keen interest by our business persons. Some of them came on their own and joined the delegation whilst there. So 95 of us went there. Why? Really, to look to understand better the business culture in Cuba and to improve the commercial relationship between Trinidad and Tobago and Cuba as well, to understand the mechanisms for purchasing goods in Cuba, knowing very well that this is a state that is the sole purchaser of goods in large measure as well, generally to enhance our collaborative relationships and get us that much closer to this very wide and burgeoning market. You would understand that the market in Cuba is excellent, with 11 million citizens, and also tourism market that is growing year by year. I will tell you that, for instance, last year, 3 million visitors came to Cuba, and by the time we had gone there, they had already exceeded the 3 million, so that there are expectations from visitors wider than those of the citizens. The visit was, I would say, largely successful, in as much as we understand the culture, we understand the mechanisms that need to be put in place so that we can do what we really want to do, which is to enhance our exports of both goods and services to Cuba. And so there were several meetings held. I would have had a meeting with the Minister of Trade and Industry, Minister Malquera Diaz, And with me would have been, for instance, the chairman of Export TT, the chairman of TTMA, as well, the permanent secretary, and I also included some large business houses with me in that particular initial meeting. Our meeting went so well that the minister did invite us for another meeting on the Thursday following, so that we could again deepen the commercial relationship between us. So those talks went exceedingly well. So much so, the Minister Diaz has committed to coming to Trinidad and Tobago, but this is without the official paperwork being done, and that is understood, for the TIC conference 2017. So I can safely say that we have established an excellent relationship. Apart from that, we did a visit to the Mariel Economic Zone, which is Cuba's largest industrial zone under development. Quite naturally, we do have large business houses in Trinidad and Tobago, for which our market is small, and therefore they have an interest in investing elsewhere. So I can say, without disclosing too much, that there are some interested parties from Trinidad who wish to invest and develop businesses within that economic zone and the Mariel Economic Zone, with a view then to using that as a hub into Central America as well. There was an excellent meeting as well with the president of the Cuban Chamber of Commerce. Again, this was another healthy meeting, and I can safely say that the president of the Cuban Chamber of Commerce has given every indication that it is his wish and the wish of the chamber to do business with Trinidad and Tobago. We also visited BioCuba Pharma, which is it is made up of about 49 companies, all involved with manufacturing pharmaceuticals and medicaments and so on, and also with the promotion of health in some form or the other. They export to a number of countries throughout the world, and so of course the interest here was whether or not we can in fact import drugs from Cuba. So it is that the Minister of Health is very much aware of this offering. We will continue to speak on it, and it's certainly an area that we're looking at, especially in terms of price and opportunity, and of course the basis of reciprocity. We certainly can't expect to be exporting goods to Cuba and not importing any from Cuba as well. I know that there's a process where which the Ministry of Health goes through in terms of registering drugs, as it will be for any country, and my understanding is that we are already examining closely the process, and it is for the Minister of Health to finish up the work on that. Also, there would have been meetings surrounding the energy delegation. I joined the delegation, the energy delegation, in meeting with the Minister of Energy and Mines in Cuba. An acting minister, as the substantive minister, was out in the east of Cuba dealing with the effects of Hurricane Matthew, and I can say that these discussions were healthy. We have an understanding of where we can assist Cuba in terms of development of their oil industry, and there's also the opportunity to provide energy products to Cuba in terms of LNG and other products as well. So all in all, I would say that it was a very, very healthy visit. We made great progress, and the intention is, you would understand the kind of society that Cuba is and the kind of government that exists, and it is very, very important that discussions continue along not only the line of the business persons, because of the number of processes that are involved in finally getting the exported goods and services into Cuba, but certainly at the level of the government, it is very important that the relationship deepens, and that the fact that we want to do business with each other really ends with us trading both goods and services. So much progress made on that visit.
Thank you very much, Minister Gopi Skoon. At this stage, members of the media, I'll invite you to ask some questions that you all think are pertinent questions, and if you can address it to the Minister.
Minister Moses, let me start with you, sir. Could you perhaps give us an indication as to when the necessary documents will be given will be supplied so that these persons in Venezuela will be able to travel? And do you have, given everything that needs to happen, a rough idea when we can expect to get these people back to Trinidad?
Thank you. My understanding is that the issuance, the provision of the travel documents is the limiting factor, and no sooner that a meeting can be arranged and concretized. One was initially scheduled for yesterday, which didn't take place. No sooner that meeting could take place between officials from our embassy in Caracas and the two national agencies of Venezuela, one treating with the immigration matters, the other where the persons are detained, are in custody, meaning the intelligence agency. No sooner that meeting actually takes place, then we'll be able to issue the documents, and in short order, meaning shortly thereafter, meaning time would not be the limiting element, they can return. That's my understanding.
So are we looking that they will be back before the end of the year, we could say?
They taking that was given to me before yesterday's meeting. Well, it was scheduled to take place yesterday, that they could have been conceivably be returning tomorrow or indeed Monday. Since that meeting did not take place, but then it will have to be sometime in the future. But that does give an indication that it could be very much in short order once that meeting takes place and the documents are issued, the travel documents, that is.
Just wanted to broaden the topic of immigration a little bit here, because it's interesting that you're talking about immigration matters regarding these individuals, and you do have a wider issue in immigration currently in the spotlight right now regarding some of our own nationals who are legally immigrated into the U.S. right now. And we'll see, obviously, there's a lot of concern, fear, apprehension about their own status as to what will happen now, seeing that have a president coming in January. So, as Minister of Foreign Affairs, is there anything that you could say to these persons as to whether that fear is justified or not?
Thank you very much for the concern. I share and empathize with the issues inherent with your question. However, our preference would be to treat with the matter in a more circumscribed manner, meaning those relating to issues of the detainees in Venezuela. I wouldn't want to hazard and to go into that direction at this time. I would want to allow my colleagues, as well as myself, and indeed the national community, to benefit from our perspectives and indeed concrete information relative to the issues that we would have treated with here.
Mr. Moses, Kamal George is from CNC3. As it relates to those nationals, has a decision been taken as to what is the process or what procedures will be applied when they return to this country, considering the charges that they faced in Venezuela?
Micro.
Hi, let me assist Minister Moses with that process. The Ministry of the Attorney General and the Ministry of National Security have been leading the charge with that, along with the collaboration of Minister Moses's ministry, which is really the information gathering side of it, and now providing these two other ministries, that is the Office of the Attorney General and the Ministry of National Security, with the information he's just provided. Things are in place. We have protocols in place. This is not the first time that we would have citizens brought back to Trinidad and Tobago, and I can assure the national community that there is a proper protocol in place, and there are officers, legal officers, as well as national security officers who are already briefed on the matter.
What does all that mean for them?
No, well, they are nationals of Trinidad and they are nationals of Trinidad and Tobago. When the Venezuelan authorities return them to Trinidad and Tobago, we will deal with our nationals as they arrive.
Can you provide a update as well on the Turkish nationals, Minister Moses?
If I can, I didn't get the last
The
few.
Turkish nationals, the Trinidadian nationals were detained in Turkey. My apologies. Can you give an update on that as well?
Certainly I can. There are, I think, 7, 8 nationals, one of whom, or rather 2 of whom do not have valid travel documents. They are in the custody of the immigration officials in Turkey, in Adana, detention center. There are certain restrictions, or rather requirements that need to be met before they can travel back to Trinidad and Tobago. A number of young individuals are involved in the group, and our understanding is that they were held attempting to cross the border into Syria under suspicion of belonging to groups that are deemed to be illegal. Beyond that, I would not want to enter, partly because of security concerns and ongoing attempts to ferret out detailed information that would be useful in treating with any such re-entry, as it were, into Trinidad and Tobago that might ultimately take place. Thank you.
Just one question to the Minister Stuart Young. Last week, the government would have filed an application in the High Court against persons who the Prime Minister described as having removed public funds illegally. But to date, we've been trying to access those documents, and we've been told that they are sealed. And I'm wondering, are you able to shed light as to why those documents are being kept private when we're speaking about public funds here? And it's very difficult accessing information as to who these people are and what the charges are. Is there a valid reason?
Absolutely, there's a valid reason. The first point to understand is these are civil proceedings. These are civil proceedings that have been filed by the Office of the Attorney General as one of the claimants in the matter. And there are very, very good reasons why those proceedings have not as yet been served and therefore are not as yet public documents. With civil proceedings, it's important to know that according to the civil proceedings rules, you have 4 months within which, after you file documents, to serve them on the defendants. A number of things can take place within that 4-month period. And I guarantee and give the assurance to the population of Trinidad and Tobago that there is very good reason why there's not been service of those documents as yet, and why those documents have not been made public as yet.
Mr. Sebastian, it seems either to Minister Young or Minister Moses, jumping back to the issue. I noticed you were very hesitant about mentioning terrorism. You called them the needle group. I mean, some of these people, the detainees from Venezuela, they've served their sentences, others just returning. Are they going to be on any kind of watch list? Is there any system in place to keep an eye on these people or others who might want to be recruited by ISIS or other organizations?
If I may assist Minister Moses, and he can supplement as he sees necessary. Minister Moses did not for a moment suggest that anyone was part of any terrorist organization. He was very careful in his choice of words, and there are 2 separate groups of persons that we're talking about. There are those that are currently detained in Turkey. He gave the circumstances which we as a government understand they've been detained in Turkey, which is that they were attempting to cross over a border illegally. And then there are those that are being returned from Venezuela. As I said, we have systems and protocols in place. From a national security point of view, we can assure the public that anyone returning at any point in time, under certain circumstances, you will go through a national security protocol process that will include a debriefing, for example. But beyond that, at this stage, for national security reasons, as you would appreciate, we would not delve into anything any further. Also, we are not here sitting as any court of law to determine whether persons are guilty or innocent of anything. Our nationals, when returned to our shores, will go through a debriefing process, and we take it from there.
Certainly, but just as the government of Venezuela would have identified some of these travelers as being under suspicion of having certain activities, what's being done here locally, whether for returning citizens or perhaps people in Trinidad, to take a closer look if there's any suspicious activities?
Absolutely. Our national security apparatus has been working, has been in train, and the intelligence services have been doing their work with respect to these nationals. As well, through Minister Moses' ministry, we have made the relevant requests of the Venezuelan government for two sets of documentation. One, we want to know the circumstances within which they were held, as well as the official court documentation, which is then fed into our procedures and protocols that exist.
Minister Moses,
No, perhaps I can make a small addition. I sense some level of enthusiasm in directing questions, and we are very appreciative of that. The validation of some of the underlying assumptions in the first question you asked a while ago, I'm not able to lend the support to that, and my colleague, Minister Young, would have brought great clarity, the separate issues and what is involved. I just thought it appropriate that we don't get carried away in bringing credence to assumptions that might very well not exist. Thank you.
Minister Moses, I am wondering what was the cause of the delay in that meeting between the TNT embassy in Caracas and the Venezuelan Immigration and Intelligence authorities?
The meeting just did not take place. It was scheduled to take place yesterday. No reason was forthcoming. No reason was forthcoming.
Have you found it difficult to get official information from the Venezuelan authorities?
That is not the way I would describe it. There was a judicial process on the way for a while, and we from the embassy and from the ministry have been delivering the type of services that would be appropriate in the circumstances, consular services, seeking out information, and we have a very close relationship with the national authorities in Venezuela on a number of issues, so that I would not, by any stretch of my imagination, want to define it as you are suggesting, whether it includes a certain level of intransigence or just difficulty. No, that is not the way I would describe it. No, we have a very close, ongoing relationship with the government and the people of Venezuela.
Have you received the official judicial documents as yet related to the individuals detained there?
I am not now in possession of such a document.
The officials at the embassy in Caracas, do they have those documents there?
Not as far as I'm aware, no.
Minister Moses, I'd like to ask you about Eden Charles and the fact that there has been so many people expressing their disappointment that he is being removed from his position. Several countries have written to the government, it's understood, asking that he continue to chair negotiations on the law of the sea. Do you have any comment on that? Because the position is that he's an excellent career diplomat, and people cannot seem to understand why he was removed.
While I would like to join in such, I am afraid I can't. Meaning that once more, the underlying assumptions, I can't bring credence to them. What I can tell you is that the very nature of the operation, the administration of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and indeed this network of embassies, high commissions, necessitates staff being rotated amongst the different missions and headquarters. We have completed one such exercise, and in the not too distant future, another one would be brought to information, and another one would be made available. Particular individual cases, such as the one you mentioned, I would not want to enter into such details, especially framed as the issue has been by yourself and indeed others. I could only let you know that those are not the facts.
What is not the fact that he's to be?
Meaning the elements you raised of in the middle of negotiations and all the other elements that you raised. Yeah.
A lot of people have the facts wrong, so
You see, going that route where the characterization of many people and who say what and all these other elements, I wouldn't want to enter into that.
I said several U.S. states in the UN is that information not true? That there was other
No, at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Foreign and CARICOM Affairs, there are procedures, there is a process by which rotations are made, and I can share, perhaps in a very summary way, these would include perhaps the expertise of the persons concerned, the length of time they would be in particular missions, where the person can be better used in terms of value added. And I'm speaking in general terms, not specifically in response to any particular individual. That's why I wouldn't want to go into, it's inappropriate for me to go and delve into any particular personal matter here. Safe to say that that the very nature of Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the administration of that ministry calls for rotation of staff members, and we are very mindful of, in a very transparent and open way, in treating in a responsible way of the welfare and indeed professional development of our staff members. Cherished staff members there, I say.
What about the postings? Number of major areas were still left exposed longer. How soon can we get some?
How soon can you?
Can people be posted in these missions?
As I said, we have just completed one such exercise, and another one would be information, another one would be shortly in evidence will be made available. No sooner such information can be made available, we would so do. I will resist that egging on, as it were, but in short order, yes. That's my expectation.
Already this for 1 to 1 minute. Good afternoon, ministers. A number of questions to Minister of Trade. First of all, what is the latest position with respect to that revolving $50 million trade deal with Venezuela? Is it still in effect, and how is it going? Also, have relations between Jamaica and Trinidad and Tobago really cooled off to the extent that trading is on, let's say, a smoothened course at this time? Also, Minister, we have had news recently of unfair trade practices relative to substandard chicken finding its way in our supermarkets. And as late as yesterday, Minister of Finance and the Economy, Colm Imbert, referring to a possible beer war to mean that some kind of beer, from outside of Trinidad and Tobago is finding its way into our markets. What has government determined to be done about this and the possibility that there may be others that would have escaped us at this time? In terms of Haiti, we not...
Let's give the minister a little hold up there, one question at a time. All right?
What has really been the extent of Trinidad and Tobago's government contribution to Haiti? Because we have heard that there are some other individuals and entities in our country who have also supported Haiti in the context of the devastation from Hurricane Matthew.
With regard to Venezuela, we've had about 3 rounds of purchases, so that it has continued, and with a little bit of strain here and there because it's the first time that we're doing this, but certainly there's continues to be keen interest, and as I said, there's been 3 rounds of purchases thus far, so it is continuing. As a matter of fact, there is interest that we should mount a mission to Venezuela sometime next year as well. That also is an excellent market, and certainly we foresee down the road, especially with our energy arrangements that is foreseen, that there will in fact be some sort of successful trade of energy items for manufactured goods. So certainly I can say that we are building on the groundwork, where the trade has begun, and I can see this being a very exciting and lucrative market for our manufacturers. You mentioned Haiti, and I did not say as well that when we went to Cuba, we were very fortunate to meet with the Minister of Minister of Commerce and Industry, she's called, Madame Petitfrère. And so it was very fortunate, and so we were able to have a meeting with several of our large manufacturers as well. She's asked to be invited to come to Trinidad. As a matter, I have to discuss with the Prime Minister to visit several of our manufacturing concerns. They too see great opportunities in Haiti. Haiti is a market of 9 million persons, and again, this is another market that we are identifying that we should be doing some business with next year as well. So we're on the heels with Haiti. And I should have mentioned when I spoke as well that I gave the impression that there were many discussions but intangibles. But I want to emphasize, yes, there are 7 companies on the ground, Trinidad companies doing business with Cuba, but in addition to which, one of them has just landed a lucrative contract, again, with 52 containers of goods to be supplied between now and December. So there's also tangible effort, and I want to also say, I didn't do it before, that the Trade Facilitation Office, which we have on the ground in Cuba, is working very well with our embassy in Cuba, really serving our manufacturers very well. When you mentioned Venezuela, you asked me something right after. It would have been beer. Yeah, chicken first. There was another second item you raised before chicken.
Second item relative to relations with Jamaica.
Relations with Jamaica. No, the relations are healthy. There would be questions asked at times, and I want to say that our ambassador our High Commissioner on the ground, High Commissioner Jeffrey, is in close contact always with us. So if there are any concerns that are raised by the Jamaica Manufacturers Association or the Chamber in Jamaica, he is in contact with me and also the PS, so that if there are any concerns at all, they are dealt with immediately. And but I can certainly say that the relationship has improved. Naturally, it remains an excellent market for us, and the relationship is good. We continue to do good business, and again, we are in touch. And with regard to chicken, Of course, that matter had been raised in the Parliament with regard to imported chicken entering our domain, and the chicken supposedly being not fit for human consumption, as it would have been 6 months or so frozen. It's a matter which the Ministry of Health is doing and collaborating with the Ministry of Trade and Industry and the Ministry of Agriculture, Lands and Fisheries as well. Our Bureau of Standards is also involved, and there are ongoing meetings with respect to introducing a standard for chicken, a standard which we have, we are working with closely with CrossQ, which is the CARICOM Standards Agency, and dealing with the question of our chicken imports and ensuring that what comes in is fit for human consumption. In any event, the chicken market, our chicken processors are also very capable of supplying our markets. In fact, some of them export to Suriname and to Venezuela as well, so that the local chicken is fit for consumption, healthy, day-old chicken introduced into our supermarkets and are available for all purchasers. But again, you can't stop the importation of goods in a free market situation. But certainly Consumer Affairs as well. The Consumer Affairs Division is working closely to inform persons about chicken that's available, chicken from block shops, and prices of chicken and so on. And it's up to the consumer in the end. But as I said, Ministry of Health, Ministry of Trade, Ministry of Agriculture, and the Bureau of Standards ensuring that a standard is put in place for chicken.
Minister Stuart Young, certainly there's been news that Trinidad and Tobago have become the beneficiaries of, correct me, 1 million or 1 billion from the bank in Spain with respect to this OAS.
You had me wondering there. I thought the Minister of Finance would get excited. No, what it was that I had spoken about in Parliament yesterday is the last tier of success Trinidad and Tobago has had through NIDCO in recovering on standby letters of credit against Banco Santander, which is a Spanish bank. They had resisted our demand for payment. This is the equivalent of a bond for the OAS contract to building the Point Fortin Highway. And yesterday in the commercial courts of London, the commercial high courts of London, we were successful and the court ordered that the standby letters of credit be paid to NIDCO. So in total now, it appears as though we're going to be collecting just short of $1 billion out of our calls on the various performance standby letters of credit.
$1 billion US?
$1 billion TT dollars in total.
The Minister of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Moses, is Trinidad and Tobago being pressed by any foreign government with respect to our detention of immigrants?
I'm not sure if I understand what pressed means.
In terms of, we talk about our citizens being detained in Venezuela, and let's say, for example, Turkey.
Yes, that I understand.
A detention center here in Trinidad and Tobago, and there may be, let's say, natives from Nigeria or Kenya over the years, and we know this has cropped up time and again about their detention and their well-being. Is Trinidad and Tobago, in terms of, its relations with these foreign countries, being pressed to speed up, let's say, repatriation or anything like that?
As far as I'm aware, nationals from different countries, from whence might have come it, persons who are currently detained at the facility here in Trinidad, we not only entertain, but we have close relationships, cordial, very tight relationships with such countries. And while I cannot claim to understand fully what you mean by press, but certainly we, on our own, we administer the facility in such a way that we try to allow in its fullness the due process that would be attendant upon holding such persons there, and we try to expedite their return to their countries safely. So I can tell you that within that framework, meaning close relationships with the countries from where these detainees would have come from, as well as our management of the facility, that is such that elements of being pressed or even animosity or such elements, they do not feature in that landscape, not at all.
All right, I'm going to ask, last question, then let's pass it on and get two more and wrap up. Thanks.
To the Minister of Education, the question of that rally for schools in Laventille, you have indicated it's a 3-year process, 1 rally per year?
No, I didn't say the rally is a 3-year process. No, I said the project.
The project, yes.
Is a 3-year. It will take 3 years for us to fully implement the project. It is being done in phases. We started with the launch, as I indicated before. The launch was held on the 1st of October. Now we're having a rally that will involve all the school children from all the schools in Laventille Mova area. So that's the second phase of the project.
Yes, and this last one to the Minister of Trade again.
Yes.
Lady Minister, certainly there have been questions again arising about that air bridge, sea bridge link between Trinidad and Tobago. When will this thing ever be resolved so that we can get that smooth business?
Well, I think it's certainly more than business. Trinidad and Tobago, it's one country. And that is a matter that has been ongoing for years. The Prime Minister is taking a special interest in this. The Ministry of Tourism, there's a particular committee that is set up to look at these major areas in tourism that need attention, especially if we're going to be focusing on Tobago to increase our tourism revenues. And so there is special interest, definite interest, targeted interest at this time on improving the transport between Trinidad and Tobago.
This question to Minister Young, just to return to that anti-corruption case. I'm not sure if you're aware, but I think Ms. Julie John and her attorney held a news conference.
Who's her attorney?
Gerald Bradley.
Okay.
Oh.
And one of the things that came out of that press conference, I think they've given the Office of the Attorney General until Tuesday next week to serve them, and they're threatening to release information about what's contained in those sealed documents. I just wanted to get a response to that.
Well, I was in cabinet, so I have not heard, seen this press conference that you've just alerted me to live. I find that very, very interesting because I was very careful to point out under the civil proceedings rules, and these are civil proceedings, any claimant has a period of 4 months within which to serve documents. I find Ms. Jolene John quite presumptuous because at no stage has anyone said who the defendants are. So maybe Ms. Jolene John and her attorney at law, Senator Ramdeen, have something that they need to tell the country about that they're feeling a little jumpy about. But as I indicated a short while ago, those proceedings have not as yet been served. There is no procedure within which you can be forced to serve proceedings. The government has been very, very careful not to indicate who the defendants are, and that is for a very specific purpose that you are permitted to utilize before serving proceedings.
And just one other statement coming out of that. Ms. John herself said it was wicked of the Attorney General to present these documents without releasing the documents. The claim is that there's no information, there's no wrong.
Why is Ms. John so anxious? I think that's the question we should ask. Why is Ms. John so anxious? The Attorney General released absolutely no document whatsoever. So until there's been service of the proceedings, I think everyone should just allow the process to take place. The courts are open. Anyone can go to court. And I make sure when they go to court, they have a proper claim within which to pursue.
I just have one question for Mr. Moses. There were reports that Ms. Supdio was spotted in Venezuela, and I'm wondering if there's any update on reaching out to the Venezuelan authorities to verify whether or not that is in fact true.
I'm not sure whether sightings and spottings could form the basis of establishing transmitted request documentation between two sovereign states based on, we are not seized of sufficient information so as to allow us, to enable us to go that route you're suggesting.
But would we be interested in trying to find out more information? And wouldn't that require some sort of, contact with the Venezuelan government?
We, at the Ministry of Foreign and CARICOM Affairs, we pursue vigorously, to the fullest extent, all pathways that involve nationals of our countries. My response to you is that we do not have sufficient information so as to enable us to go the route you're suggesting that we should or might pursue.
Okay, I think we'll take one last question, if there's one you... Okay. I think Ms. Tate has one last question. Thank you.
Minister Moses, I don't know, there was a report about a Haitian student who...
Okay, let me answer that one because that's actually come under the Ministry of the Attorney General. What had come up is that an application was made. Initially, the first immigration officer that dealt with the application for the student visa may not have been in favor. Now, this matter is before the courts, so I must be very cautious as to what we say. But as soon as the Minister of National Security and the Chief Immigration Officer became aware, a review of it was done by the Chief Immigration Officer. The Chief Immigration Officer had made a decision to grant the student visa and contacted the sponsor on the application. The sponsor on the application, it is my understanding, may have panicked, went to attorneys, sought advice. The attorneys went to court and obtained an order with respect to the student. But by then, the authority had intervened as the Chief Immigration Officer and had made her decision. The Office of the Attorney General got involved because we are the lawyers for the state, and I personally on Friday night had asked for it to be indicated to the lawyers for the claimant, the student, that a decision had been made and a favorable decision, and there was no threat of the student being deported. So I assume by now all of that has been ironed out. It came up before the courts on Monday, but it was a satisfactory outcome. And, what I stress to the attorneys and to those in authority is we must have open communication, especially in a situation like that. And we did do, as soon as I was alerted to it on Friday night, we did send off email correspondence to the claimant's attorney saying, fear not, there is an intention to do what needs to be done, that is the granting of the student visa. So all of that hopefully now is water under the bridge because the Chief Immigration Officer had taken a decision to grant the student visa. All right. I think Minister Gopi Skoon wants the opportunity to address you all on one last issue.
No, it's just that the gentleman from Power 102, you asked me so many questions. That the one on Haiti with regard to the donations, that I didn't do it. What I can say to you is that the public has been extremely generous in their support for Haiti and the circumstances, and so that we wish to thank the population for their support. But I also want to add as well that about 16 containers have in fact gone, and this is in addition to the to that already sent by the then mayor of San Fernando, Mayor Kazim Hussein. The manufacturers of their own would have sent through different agencies about 16 containers of commercial goods, including manufactured goods, and of course including cement, which was going to go from Dominican Republic to Haiti as well, but including bricks as well. So a number of commercial items, including things that are necessary for household repairs, and of course food manufactured in Trinidad and Tobago.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, members of the media. Have a good afternoon.
Well,